Hello, my sisters. I was just guided to sit down this morning and record a message for you, so I'm following that guidance, and I hope that this audio recording finds you well. As I mentioned at the full moon, we are still really deep in the season of rest. I'm sitting here looking outside my window and seeing the trees bare and having lost their leaves. We always have some palm trees and things in California evergreen. But there certainly are all of the signs that we are in the cold, dark aspect of the season. And it's interesting, it's colder than ever, right? Although reports just came out that this was also the hottest year on record. And so one of the things that I was thinking about this morning in meditation is the dichotomy, right? How we are experiencing on our planet right now the elements in extreme forms. We're experiencing hotter heat than ever, and we're experiencing a colder chill and certainly more rainfall and more snowfall, and the elements are just coming forward to make themselves known to us in a more powerful way. And why is that? I look around and I want to train you a little bit. I always have a micro view. I look down into the details, but I always have a macro view too. It's sort of like opening the aperture in your camera so that you can see, you can have a broader perspective. And that's what keeps you sane. A lot of you ask me all the time, how do you do it? People burn out, you don't burn out, you're helping all these people, where does your energy come from? I get those questions all the time. And where my energy comes from is when the micro is too stressful for me, then I macro out, and I go high, I go 30,000 feet, and I try to hover so that I can get a broader perspective on what's happening. There's a beautiful analogy, too, when I used to be an executive coach, we used to talk about the dance floor. And part of the problem for people when they're so stressed out is that they are on the dance floor, and they're stressed out about the person they're dancing with, and they're stressed out about the song they're dancing to. It's a metaphor, right? But they're on the dance floor, and they can't see anything because they're right in the middle of what's happening in their lives. But where healing begins is at the balcony, when you say, pardon me for a moment, and you excuse yourself from the dance floor, and you escalate those beautiful stairs, and you come up to the balcony, and then you look down on the dance floor, and you have a whole different view, and you say, whoa, hey, from up here, I can see that he wasn't dancing, he wasn't following the same song, and from up here, I can see that, she really didn't want to be doing that dance. Look at her body language, she's pushing herself away. But when you're on the dance floor, you can't see all of that. You're too micro, so you have to macro out. And so part of what I'm doing in this season of rest, because when I go down to the micro, it's like do, go, 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 which is not the medicine of winter time. So when I micro right now and I feel pressured to do more than I know is sanctioned by the season that we're in, then I macro out and I realize, no. Gaia is resting, and I have, we've talked about sovereignty for next season and themes, and I believe we all have a sovereign right to say, I'm going to work the medicine of the season. I understand what you're asking for, or I understand what you would like to have right now, but for me personally, I work with the wheel of the year and the cycles of nature, and right now nature is resting, and so I'm going to pull back my energy and retreat a little bit in order to make sure that as I work with the natural cycles, I'm ready when spring arrives. And so one of the ways that I like to work with gods and goddesses, and if you've been in sabbatical a long time, then you know this. If you're newer, then this is probably helpful wisdom for you, is thinking about the gods and goddesses as archetypes. In the Roman pantheon, we have Epona, who I've been working with recently. She's a fertility goddess. And Epona is also a protector of the wild and free. So she wants to grow things. She wants to set things free. And she has a parallel in the Celtic pantheon with Rhiannon, for example. And so when I work with Epona, part of her medicine is, as you meditate and reflect and go within, what parts of that inner landscape of your life and of your soul, what parts of you need to be set free? And that's between you and the divine. That's a choice that you make. There's certain aspects of yourself that really do need to be set free. For me, I can always tell what those aspects are just by looking at myself. If I'm too constrained, if I've been fitting inside the box, if I haven't been indulging myself in some of the pleasures of life, if I haven't been passionate enough in my love relationship, if I haven't shown up fully as a woman and as a divine creature in all of the aspects of my life, if I've been working too hard and micro focusing and not macroing out to see the bigger picture, then I look a little withered on the vine. And so right now, like even now, I can look in the mirror and see that. And I know the pathway back. And that's what I'm trying to teach you. Like, I want you to be able to diagnose, okay, I'm withering. It's because I'm not attending to my inner needs. I'm putting too much of my energy out into the world when the medicine of the season is to pull all that energy back. And so what am I going to do about that? I'm going to be a little more quiet. I'm going to spend more time each day meditating. I'm going to indulge my passions, my private passions, maybe. The season of rest is not just rest. The season of rest is going within and tending to the inner fire, which can be, bringing more of your passionate inner self to your love relationship, which will also spawn your creativity. It's sort of a crude thing, right? But we're coming upon the season of birth, and you can't birth anything if you don't first become pregnant with it. You need to let something enter you. Being sort of direct about that this morning, but something has to enter you and to become what you gestate, what you create. And so I want you to be mindful too of what's coming into you. And I'm using a very sexual metaphor, but in fact, you can't gestate something that doesn't enter you. Are you enterable? Have you sort of locked that up and thrown away the key? And in which case, what's going to be able to enter and pass? It needs your permission. And can you trust enough to let something enter you? That's, that is the vulnerability for women. Have you thought about that over the course of your life? It's like we let things enter us, and then if we get hurt, we think, oh, I shouldn't have let that in. But that vulnerability is the pathway to wisdom. Truly, if you don't come to a place where you say, I am willing to risk being hurt for the possibility of feeling the intensity of love and creation flow through me, I just urge you to consider the fact that in many ways is the call that we are hearing and that we are heeding. And I don't know what needs to enter you. That for you is about what you need to create this year. And if you're not sure, then it means you haven't done the work of winter yet, and that's okay. But this is my wake-up call to you a little bit. Here we are in the middle of January. We have 2 weeks until Imbolc, which is first sign of spring. February 1st is Imbolc. Imbolc, or Imbulg, means in the belly. That's because most of nature's creatures are pregnant right now, having conceived at the winter solstice. And so most of nature is pregnant right now and quiet and sleepy and tending to those little babies inside. And then in the spring, around the vernal equinox, March 21st, is when everything comes to life and lots of little creatures are born. Even my little creatures were born. Both of my babies were delivered within a week of the spring equinox on either side of it. So, and that was not intentional, but I think having lived my life for so long by the seasons and by the wheel, that my body sort of naturally fell in line with this beautiful, ancient conception and birth cycle, which I love so much. So how are you feeling? Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? You got to let some things in. And I know you've been hurt, and I know that you have struggled. And even if you haven't been hurt or struggled recently, you have at some point in your life. And, part of the work of shamanism, of course, is to allow healing around those places and spaces. And in fact, what we do in shamanic work, whether it's through drum journey or cacao journey or medicinal journey of any kind, is we try to take you back to those places where you shed some part of yourself in order to move on and survive. That's what we do when we do, soul healing and soul retrieval, is we go back and pick up those little bits and pieces of you that you had to let go. And if it was abuse when you're a child, what else can a child do? A child recognizes even subconsciously, like, God, I got to shed something here in order to survive, because otherwise I'm not going to make it. A child in a traumatic situation, even without the adult awareness of what's happening, is very cued into the fact that it's a survival instinct. I either shed what's happening right now and sort of split myself a little bit to survive, or I'm not going to make it. So even thinking about little you, and thinking about old you, the old soul you that has walked many miles. Sometimes when we do meditations and I think to myself, I thank these little feet because they have walked me. I have little tiny feet, like little very small feet. But I can wear kid-size shoes. But these little feet have carried me so many miles, and I think about these shoulders. So grateful for holding up this head, this third eye, and walking me through the world with grace, helping me to stand confidently and move forward despite pain and sadness and betrayal and all the things that we experience in this human lifetime. When we choose to come back, I think it's because we want the chaos. We want, and by chaos I mean randomness, as in chaos theory, right? Like, we want, the universe is so beautifully orchestrated and intelligently designed that our soul only knows order and structure because there's sacred geometry and there is an entire meta universe of order. And so when our soul seeks chaos, wants the arbitrary, we have to come back and have a human experience, because only in the human realm, in this mortal coil, can you have an arbitrary experience. The universe doesn't create arbitrary experiences. It's fascinating, right? And that's where physics is actually something of a buzzkill for those of us in metaphysics, quantum mechanics, because there's an order and a structure and a system, and there's some part of us that desires to be in chaos because we seek the unknown. There's some part of us that is the hero on the journey, that is seeking to understand. And the real funny part of it to me, having a very old soul and very wise teachers and very expressive guides, the most fascinating part of it to me, of all of it, is the conundrum, the ultimate conundrum, that we will never, while we are alive, understand it all. It is the moment that we cross the veil and leave this consciousness that we will understand. And I speak that from a place of having been through a near-death experience. I got close to understanding it all, and then it was like the rug got pulled out because I was supposed to come back. But I got close enough where I can tell you, that moment when we cross and experience the flood of chemicals in our brain that we know scientifically gets released at the moment that our soul departs the body. That's when it all comes together. So we chase it our whole lives only to find it when our lives are over. That is the ultimate conundrum, I think. But wouldn't it be that way? Wouldn't it be that way that, we're here to not have the answers. We're here actually to seek and to explore and to enjoy the chaos of it all. To enjoy the fact that you wake up today and you don't know what's going to happen. I don't think that happens on the other side. I think on the other side there is such an infinite architecture to everything that free will starts to seem very exciting. What a different perspective, right? What I'm telling you even asks that you start to enjoy the struggle, because your soul came here to experience it to some extent. So on this cold morning, there's lots of ambient noise now as the neighborhood starts to wake up. I want to leave you with that. I want to leave you with the message to try and enjoy your chaos. Don't try to find easy answers. Can you find them? Yes. Should you seek them? It's up to you. It's up to you once you realize that you actually came here looking for what you're experiencing right now. And it doesn't last very long. So can you work through the chaos to receive the gift and the blessing behind it? Aho. Amen. So it is. Just my offering for you for today, with lots of love to all my sisterhood. I'll see you soon.